Well, one, Philly Home Show tickets. We have a whole bunch of tickets here at the office. If you're interested in getting some of those, we have them here for you. They're available for pickup, and I'm just looking here over at my notes. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 9 a.m. through 1 p.m. So stop on by to get those. The home show is this weekend as well as the following weekend. So that runs Monday through Friday. Monday through Sunday for those show dates. So this upcoming weekend, the following weekend, and then pick up the tickets Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 to 1. Tomorrow, Bright MLS is going to be having a webinar, how to avoid the most common violations. That's going to happen at 10 o'clock in the morning. So you're welcome to go ahead and attend that. And then we're going to round out the week with one last workshop, and that is hosted by Trent Pettis, one of our best presenters that we have. Usually draws in a lot of folks. This focus workshop will be on buyer agency contract. It's a 2-hour workshop. So if you've ever attended one of Trent's past presentations, usually about the agreement of sale, which is a longer one than that one. Trent does a great job, interactive. He feeds off of the folks that show up for the session. So we encourage you, come on in. You're always going to learn something, and it's both for new agents as well as seasoned ones. I think that's the key point there. Things are always evolving, always changing, and there's usually some kind of scenario or story that we've never heard of before. So I think that really proves the value that can be added to that workshop. So with that, let's get to today's workshop. And we are so lucky to have Janis Benstock with us today. Janis has done quite a few of these over the last 2 years. So we're grateful to have her back. And I think Janis is probably going to be doing a national presentation, fingers crossed on that, coming up at the National Association's convention in November in Orlando. So anyway, with that, we're very grateful to have Janis. Janis, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So welcome everybody. And I'm really excited to give this presentation. I have been developing it for quite a while. So you are my guinea pig audience on it. So I created a new slideshow and everything for you. I absolutely don't require that you put your camera on, but I would totally dig it and be eternally grateful if you did. And I really don't care what you look like. It just makes it nice to look out into a sea of faces instead of just, hi, Dina. See, now I'm seeing people that I know, which is so nice. So I'm going to pull up a slideshow and I'm going to go through it. I'm completely informal. And if you have questions along the way or you have a comment, just use your raise your Zoom hand, and then I'll call on you because of Zoom, that's going to make you show up on my screen. Otherwise, you might be hidden. And just leave yourself muted because of background noise. But obviously, if you want to talk, I want you to jump in because this is for you. So let me pull up my, oh wait, Madam, I'm host. Okay, so I can share my screen. Okay, so we get into present mode. Here we go. So we are talking today about Zillow, but not really just Zillow. Sometimes people put things online that are fear-mongering and make you think that you're going to be made irrelevant by Zep sites, right? Zillow, Redfin, whatever the website is. They make you feel like you're going to be irrelevant, and they compare us to travel agents. That's not the case. It's not the same. I also want to talk to you because you might be paying for leads. And if you are, and you're trying to find a way out, or you don't know what to do to build your business and you're thinking of buying leads, I want to show you that there's a better way. And also, if you're cold calling or someone's telling you to cold calling, but you hate it, and like the little part of you dies inside every time you pick up that headset, or like you feel the vomit rising in the back of your mouth when you have to recite a script, this is also for you. Now, before we get started, I just want to be 100% clear here. We are not inciting a group boycott. This is not what this is about. If you want to pay for Zillow leads or pay for any other leads, You can do whatever you want to do. I'm simply showing you an alternative, and I'm also showing you that they are not putting us out of business, but I by no means at all am saying that any of us or all of us or any of us should boycott anyone, because that's a violation of the Antitrust Act. So just to be 100% clear on the record, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, so this presentation is not about Zillow. It's about you, it's about your value, your work in the real estate business, and how to thrive no matter what the industry disruption is, because today it's Zillow, tomorrow it's going to be something else. There's always going to be change. That's the only thing constant. And if you know what your value proposition is, you can always bend with whatever disruptions there are, find your value, and find a way to not only survive, but to thrive in this industry. So let's real quick, and I'm no expert, I looked it up, but the history of the MLS, because how did we get here? How did we get here with our information being syndicated to all these third-party websites? Well, back in the olden days, before my time, before your time, we had information where you'd have one real estate broker and he would have a listing, and it was always a he would have a listing and then he would find a buyer. So it really depended it was really important which office you listed with, because you only really had access to that real estate broker's contacts. But then people started sharing information between brokers. They started cooperating, and they did sort of a live MLS, and then it got turned into a book, and then it got turned into a website. And the reason this happened is because we realized that when we share information, it's better for our clients. We get more exposure for our listings, we facilitate more sales, and we honor our fiduciary to our client even better by serving them. Well, I started researching the history of how our information started being syndicated to the third-party sites. And honestly, it was way too technical for me to explain to myself, let alone to you. But I will tell you this, you can look it up. And the point is that at some point, there are different points in history, our information started becoming syndicated to third-party sites. And when that happened, the entire playing field changed, because the internet leveled the playing field. Our value used to be access to information. It was data. It was, we have the listing, we're holding it, monopoly, and you have to come to us for data, but that's no longer the case. So if data is not your value now, what is your role? What is your value? And if you think that your value is data, you're wrong. You're wrong, because how many times do your clients text you something they found on Zillow, or text you something they found on Redfin, and then you have to go show it to them, even though it wasn't something that they asked you for in the beginning, otherwise it would have showed up in your search. But we know that they have access to this information. So if you are familiar at all with Blue Ocean Strategy, and I pulled this right off their website, their website address is at the bottom if you're interested. If you're familiar at all with Blue Ocean Strategy, what Blue Ocean Strategy as a marketing strategy says is that rather than competing and trying to undercut the big guys or the other people or the other companies and create and market and sell the same product or service that they do at a cheaper, faster price, or to give more value and to just give more, we're going to go over and create something new. Because when we go into the crowded space, like let's say we were trying to beat Zillow at their own game, we're now creating a battleground, and it gets bloody, like a red ocean, right? We're fighting each other. Imagine if we tried to get Google rankings above Zillow and Redfin. Can you imagine? You would never get anything else done, and you still would never rank above them. But if instead we look to ourselves and we say, what's my value? What do I do differently and better than Zillow? Because I'm never going to beat them at their game, nor do I want to. And I go over to my own Blue Ocean where it's calm and cool and there's no competition, and I create something new. And now I can just go about and do my business, and it feels better, and I'm not bloody trying to beat the big guy. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, I want to go back a little bit and explain why buying Zillow leads, in my humble opinion, is one of the worst courses of action in order to build your real estate business. And the first thing is it creates an addiction. We all know from addiction, as the empty wine glass on my nightstand most mornings shows you, we get in habits, right? I drink my wine, it helps me fall asleep. The next day I'm like, maybe I'm not going to drink my wine tonight, but then I want to go to bed, so I drink my wine. And we get in these habits. When you start buying leads, you get in a habit. You get in a habit and it creates an addiction. And also, even if you're trying to get out of buying leads, the reality is that you're trapped under that high overhead because it costs you money every single month, no matter what, whether any of those leads close, even if you're on vacation, it doesn't matter. You have to pay that money. So what happens is you're trapped under this high overhead. You're in this vicious cycle where you're living to work. You're just living so that you can work and pay for these leads and hopefully convert some of them. And even if you're getting an ROI, of return on investment, what happens is that you never have time to go over here to the blue ocean and create something new to wean yourself off of these leads. So it creates this addiction where you have to keep feeding the monster. And it also causes burnout. And the reason it causes burnout is because it compartmentalizes your life. It takes business and says, okay, business is here. And unfortunately, it can't even compartmentalize it into a section of your daily calendar because we know the phone rings at all times, the leads come in at all times, and you're constantly working. But the problem with buying leads or even cold calling or door knocking is that you're going to have to segment out time that's just dedicated to work activities. And then after you're exhausted from working all day, all night, your whole life, when do you have time to do other things like take a shower or do the dishes or go for a nap or a walk or run or hang out with friends? You don't. And when you do, it's a battle because then work suffers. So it's this constant struggle of where do I spend my time? And the way that I'm going to show you is much better because everything is organic. It's all enmeshed and it dances with your life. So let's see if this makes any sense. This is how crazy the whole Zillow lead thing is. So let me see if I can explain this to you. Ready? Here we go. You're an agent right here. You're the blue guy. And you decide that you're going to pay Zillow leads for the west side of town. You want to get clients west of Broad, right? So you pay Zillow some money. And now there's this listing over west of Broad. And this buyer is like, oh, I want to see this. So they call or they click and they get on Zillow. And then Zillow says, oh, well, this is our West Side agent. So we're going to feed this lead here. Okay, so the West Side agent paid money to Zillow, works the lead, maybe or maybe not closes a deal. At the same time, across town on the east side is this other agent. And this agent is paying Zillow leads for leads that come on the east side of town. So now there's this house over here on the east side, and this buyer sees it and clicks on Zillow, and Zillow feeds it to the east side agent. So if you think, and meanwhile, these two guys, they're friends and they're going out to dinner. And as they're going out to dinner, they start talking to each other and realize that Zillow took both money from both of them and swapped their leads, created cannibals out of them. And that is a really short version because in actuality, when Zillow hands off those leads, they hand them off to multiple agents who paid for those leads. But everyone's giving Zillow money, and Zillow is profiting off of him and off of him and off of you and you and you. And it's a zero-sum game. So how do we get out of this pattern? How do we break this vicious cycle? Well, as much as I want you to go cold turkey, the reality is if you're earning money from Zillow leads or any other leads, it is hard to wean yourself off. It's hard to go cold turkey. So there are alternatives. There are referral fee pay on the back end rather than upfront. And two companies that I've done business with that I know firsthand are OpCity and Estately. And the way that they work is that you sign up with them and they has to be signed up for on the broker level. So if your office is not signed up, talk to your broker about it, or office manager. And when they get signed up, you get handed leads. And Estately will reach out and say, are you available for this lead? And if you're the first one or you say yes pretty quickly, they'll give you the lead. City, they have an app. It's almost like an auction type situation where they ding, 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 and whoever grabs it first gets the lead. The upside is there's no upfront fee and you're only paying a commission, a referral fee if you close. Downside is a lot of these leads are not very good because what they're doing is they're scouring these third-party websites where people are clicking on information, and especially City, they call, I think I watched a video where they call 27 times between texting, calling, and emailing, reaching out to these people until they get them on the phone. And so a lot of times these leads are not qualified, they're not serious, and they waste your time. However, if you have nothing going on, rather than paying for Zillow leads up front, it might make sense for you to wean yourself off of it by taking these leads and getting some experience and hopefully closing a few deals while you're building your business your own way. So the best way is to get your own damn leads. And how do you get your own leads? There's so many different ways. And people sometimes either get lazy or insecure, and so they don't realize how valuable they are, and they go and they pay for leads or they cold call. But if we stop and we think as to why people transact in real estate, we have to know that there have been studies done, and in those studies, I don't remember who did the study, but it comes up that the 3 most stressful situations in someone's life are death, divorce, and moving. So we're dealing with people who are going through their 3rd most stressful situation of their entire life, statistically, right? So if we are buying leads from Zillow, or even Estately or City, or we're cold calling people and they're ready to move, that might be the 3rd most stressful situation of their life. And it's also expensive. It's oftentimes the most expensive asset of a person's life, and it can be emotional. So now we have this person that we don't know that was handed to us from Zillow. And the other thing is they were also probably called by a bunch of other agents. So they have no allegiance or connection to us. Oftentimes they're hostile when you call them because they're tired of being aggravated, and you've spent money for this and wasted your energy and your time. Because remember that every time you choose to do something, it means you're also choosing to not do everything else. So how do we find the right clients? Well, we have to remember that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And that is the cornerstone for all sales business, right? Is know, like, and trust, the know, like, and trust factor. So how do we find people that know, like, and trust us? Well, it's not going to be from cold calling. I mean, you could randomly come across somebody who happens to develop a know, like, and trust factor with you on a cold call. Or Zillow could send you a lead of someone that you already know and that already knows, like, and trusts you. But then how pissed off are you going to be that you spent money on Zillow leads when the person was in your phone anyway, right? So if we know that people do business with people they know, like, and trust, then let's start talking about what your value proposition is so that you can reach out to the people that you know, like, and trust and say to them, work with me instead of working with Zillow and having Zillow hand you to me without begging them for business. So the first thing before we start to get into all this is I want to say to you this: mindset is everything. And remember, I teach pre-licensure also. So I have people coming into my classroom who know nothing or next to nothing about real estate. And they sit through my class, and the first day they think it's going to be HGTV, and they're ready to, like, love it or list it or like Property Brothers. And then they're finding out what's the definition of real property. And they're like, wow, right? But what I tell them all is that after about the first hour, I say to them, you know more already than all the civilians out there. Civilians meaning people that don't have their real estate license. So these are people that are sitting in class for an hour. You already have your license, and some of you are new, some of you have little experience, some of you have tons of experience. You know more than most people out there. You know more than Zillow does. You have value. And if you go into this, into any conversation, any text, any email, any open house, any situation, any introduction, and you don't realize how knowledgeable and how powerful you are and how valuable you are, you need to shift your mindset first, because you do have value. Now, here are some of the values that you have that Zillow doesn't have. You have negotiation skills. You know how to negotiate. And some of you are better at it than others, but here's the thing. There are ways to improve. And if negotiating is not one of your strong suits, here are some ways that you can strengthen them, because this is something that Zillow will never have. One thing is you can get your CNE. Your CNE is a designation for Certified Negotiation Expert, and you can just Google that and you can take that class and you can become a certified negotiation expert. You can get the education behind you and you can get the credentials that you can use on your business card and all your marketing materials. The next thing is what's called a support sandwich, or what I call a support sandwich. I'm sure it has other names, but here's a great way to think about negotiating. Some people think that negotiating is trying to find a way for me to win or find a way for my client to win. But in reality, the way that I look at negotiating is trying to find a way that makes everybody happy. It doesn't mean that my side, whoever I represent, my client, is going to get the short end of the stick. It doesn't mean necessarily that I have to give, but it means that the other person is going to feel comfortable, and they're going to feel comfortable because I'm going to make them feel comfortable. And I do it by what's called a support sandwich. So if I have something negative to say, the negative thing is the meat inside the sandwich, and the nice things are the fluffy Wonder Bread on either side. So it's simple like this. Your house is beautiful, and I know it's probably going to sell for $1 million, but it doesn't exactly fit my buyer's needs. So the offer is a little bit low, but they really love it and are totally serious about buying it. Now, I took that little negative and I put it in the middle and I fluffed it up with white bread on either side. And how many of you have ever gotten a call from the buyer's agent that said, that house is terrible, it's overpriced, I'm not paying? And immediately your back goes up and you're like, psh, and you don't want to deal with them. So support sandwich is a great way to negotiate, and you have that value. Another one is a book called Never Split the Difference, and that's similar in this philosophy about negotiating so that both people win. And that's a really good read. There are tons of books out there that you can educate yourself on negotiating skills. The next value that you have over Zillow is you are an expert in your market. You know your market. And if you don't, there are some ways that you can get to know your market. And the first one is my favorite secret weapon, which is to preview properties. And that is free and it is fun and it is the best and fastest and surest way to get to know your market. I wrote a blog post on it called Fake It Till You Make It, and you can get it right on my website, jbrea.net, jbrea.net, and that blog is right up there. And in a nutshell, previewing properties is the #1 best way to get to know your market, because when you walk into a property, you embody that property. You feel it, you smell it, it becomes real to you versus seeing it on the MLS where it's just two-dimensional. And Dean is here. Dean is one of my agents, and I love this story. A few years ago, we went on an agent tour, and we looked at a couple of properties, and we went and we saw a property just a block away from our old office. And then that day or the next day, we're literally sitting in our office and somebody walks in, a couple, and they said, we're trying to rent a place for our son or daughter, whoever was here in school. And guess what? We said, you might want to rent a place, but how much are you looking to spend? And realized the house we had just previewed would be perfect for them to buy instead. And the monthly payment on the mortgage would be the same as the rent they were looking to pay. Now, if we had not gone on that tour, if we had not previewed that property, that would not have been at the front of our mind, and we would not have mentioned it to that person, but we did instead. And that only happens when you go out and you do things and you preview. It becomes, I call it hyper awareness, when it becomes top of mind. Plus, you're going to get into properties while they're on the market, and then when they're pending or sold and you need to use them as comps, you've already been in there and you already know them. Another way to stay an expert in your market is keep current with the local news. I get my news on Facebook. I'm not advocating it, but that's where I get it, because everyone that I'm friends with is all in real estate in Philadelphia. With other friends on Facebook, my feed is full of Philadelphia stuff, and I keep abreast of what's going on in Philadelphia. And I just got a message from someone, or saw it online, that there's a new building going up at Broad and Lombard, and that they're putting a Whole Foods in there, and they're moving my Whole Foods from South Street over to that Whole Foods. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, if anybody in my neighborhood wants to sell their house, now is the time to do it, while you can still say you're a block away from Whole Foods. So stay in touch with what's going on in your market, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the next one is market stats. And I don't like stats, so I don't pay attention to them. They completely bore me, but some people totally nerd out on them. And if you're somebody that does, learn your stats. They're all on MLS. You can pull them. There's all kinds of ways that you can search them. And one other general thing I want to say about that is that it's okay to be you. It's okay for me to stand up here and say, or sit here and say, I don't do stats. When people ask me how's the market, I'm like, it's good. I always just say it's good. And if they start asking me about stats, I change the conversation and I say, I don't do stats. Like, I'm on the street. I know it. I feel it. I'm intuitive. I know what's going on. And here's the thing. There are some people that are going to think, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and they don't trust me to do business with me. That's okay. Then there are some people, Myrna, who are like, I love your vibe and your spirituality, and I love the way, and completely we're like, right? We're like sisters from another mister. And so the point is, be you, be who you are, and you will attract the right people. And if your value is knowing market stats, go nerd out on market stats. I'm not having a drink and talking to you about market stats, but I'll talk to you about law of attraction, right? So it depends on who you are, and be yourself. The next is creative solutions. Remember, Zillow doesn't have creative solutions. They have click this or click that, but we do. One of our superpowers is understanding mortgage financing. And if you don't understand mortgage financing, even if it's not something that you like, you should learn the basics of it, because it will make you a much better salesperson. It will make you a more confident salesperson. There are basics about mortgages. And if you need to take CE, one of the CE classes I teach is that. I love teaching about mortgages. I'm sure I've done videos on it online too. Understand the basics of mortgages. You can help people with investing. You can help people become buyers that didn't know they could become buyers. Ooh, here's one, not in the slides because I just thought of it. Does anybody know about the website HomeBot? HomeBot. So HomeBot is a website, and I pay $25 a month for HomeBot, and it's a lead magnet. It's like a lead generation. And what happens is, and I wonder if I could throw my, you know what, I think it's on, and if you want to play with it, I'm not going to spam you with email. I think if you go onto my Instagram, it might be in my link tree under Settle Down Philadelphia. It's a way to find the value of your property so you can play with it. And then if you like it, you should sign up for it. So what happens is, if you're a buyer or a seller and you sign up for my HomeBot, it's free to the consumer. And then they get a home report that gives them the approximate value of their home, but it also shows them approximately what they owe, what they could do with the equity, how much they could get for it if they rented it, how much they could get Airbnb. It does a lot of this math for you, and it collects their email address and it gives them a report every single month. And you partner with a lender. And when you partner with a lender, then the lender has access to their information as well. So if the person wants to sell or buy or refinance so that they can buy another property, they have access to the lender that you partner with. And it's a really great source, especially if you're not comfortable explaining financing, because it shows people what they can do with the equity in their home. And it's a great way to generate leads because it's a lead magnet. You can just pop it out there all over social media on your email signature and your link tree and your bio, and people click on it and it captures leads, and people love it. It's a really great site. The next is You Know More Than Civilians, and we already said that, but I want to reiterate it because you know a lot. And here's the thing. I know a lot. I've been doing this for 25 years. I teach and I own a school and I'm a broker. I still don't know everything. There are people that know more than I do, right? There are people that know more than you, and there are people that know less than you. You only have to be a step or two ahead in the subject that you're talking about beyond where your audience is, beyond where your consumer is, because there's somebody, everybody needs to learn something, and you always know more than somebody. You don't have to know the most, you don't have to know everything, but you know a whole hell of a lot. And I know you do because you passed your exam, and it's hard. So you have to have belief and faith in yourself that you know a lot and just do what you're good at, and you'll keep getting better and keep learning more. And the next thing is, for creative solutions, get your damn broker's license. Even if you don't want to be a broker, you're going to get the education, you're going to get the experience, and you're going to, more importantly, get the mindset. Because when you have that broker's license and you have the word broker behind your name, even if it's associate broker, it's still broker. You're going to have the mindset. And I'm telling you, you will walk differently. Because when I had the word broker on my card behind my name, I stood up taller and straighter and a whole lot more confidence in myself. So strongly consider getting your broker's license. The next thing we have over Zillow is we can give people emotional support. We said in one of the slides, death, divorce, and moving. And don't we know that sometimes death or divorce is what causes a move? Right? How many of our clients are just like, oh, let's sell my house today. La, la, la. No, people sell their house for a reason. They're going through some sort of life transition, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And so we can give them emotional support. People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. So how do we give emotional support? Even if you think you're not a touchy-feely emotional person, you can do simply listen to someone. When someone's in pain, or when someone's going through a transition, or someone's going through a challenge, what they need more than teaching is they need someone to listen to them. Because how many times have you been like eating the Twinkie, going, oh my God, I'm so fat, I'm eating the Twinkie. And the last thing you want is for someone to say to you, yeah, you should put the Twinkie down. You're like, shut up, I know I should put the Twinkie down. What you want them to say is, I know it's really hard to put the Twinkie down, isn't it? I have a really hard time too. Which one feels better to you? Because if someone tells me to put the Twinkie down, I'm going to shut down. I know to put the Twinkie down. So we have to remember that what people need from us is they need support versus teaching, and they need us to listen. And they also need us to not judge them. And this is a big one, because a lot of times people are transitioning housing and there's a financial economic component to that. There's a shame involved in that. And we know that all the time. And I did a Facebook Live about this a couple days ago. And I talked about shame, and I talked about finances, and I talked about my own shame with money. I opened up and I talked about my own shame. And the reality is, there are people out there that we can help, especially when they're underwater, they're upside down, they're behind on their mortgage, they're going through a divorce. I had someone call me the other day, a referral, and she said that she and her husband are getting divorced and they need to sell their house. And I said, what about you buy him out? He bankrupted us. They went through bankruptcy. What did I do in that moment? I supported her. I supported her and I didn't judge her. And what I said to her is, I've been through this, or I understand. And I made her feel unashamed about it. And now she's transacting with me, right? And I didn't do that to get the deal. I did that because I genuinely care. And one other thing about money, and I say this all the time, and this is super important for us because we're in a position to really help people, is there are people that go through such economic trouble that they commit suicide. That's how seriously they take the shame and the pressure of money. And the reality is, it's just money. So when someone's suffering, when they're going through emotional or financial trouble, be supportive, do not judge them, and listen to them, because you could end up saving someone's life. Next is friendship and human connection. So one of the things I always say is, first, be human. Be human first. There are so many times where somebody needed something and I helped them and I didn't get a transaction out of it because I just was being led by being human. And did it turn into something later on? Probably. But if it didn't, I don't care. Because the reality is, when we're led first by being human, we feel good, they feel good, And they're probably going to refer us to someone else. But it's not linear. It's not like I'm nice to this person and I help them out and then they're going to sign a listing contract. It doesn't work that way. And when you start thinking that it's linear, then you're no better than Zillow. Next, sales is service. This is one of my favorite things. And this is really good to get over the whole mindset about money. Sales is service. And this just freaking happened to me the other day, and I don't even think I told anyone about it except for Ramona. One of my repeat clients, an investor client who I have under contract right now for a pretty decent sized property. They always buy expensive properties, nice commissions, called me Saturday night and said, my girlfriend and I want to go see this house. Can you show it to us tomorrow? And I said, sure. I'm taking my kid back to college. I could show it to you in the morning before I leave. Let me go downstairs and look it up. I go downstairs and look it up. I text him back and I said, 9 or 10 tomorrow. He writes back and he says, 10 is good, but if this works out, you have to do me a favor and throw me back 1% of the commission. What? What? And this was a $1.2 million property. So if I would have thrown him back 1%, I would have walked away with about $18,000 because I'm the broker and I don't split it with anyone before taxes and all that stuff. Guess what? Guess what I could do with $18,000? What could you do with $18,000? What did I say to him? I said, thank you, but I don't do that. Why did I do that? Because I value my worth. I value my worth. Sales is service. And he is not paying me, or the seller is not paying me for the 2 hours it would take for me to show the property and write up the offer and go to settlement. Because a deal like that would be so easy. Maybe it would be 5 or 10 hours, and that's stretching it. We are not in a time and materials business. We do not get paid by the hour. Get that through your head. We are a value-based business. And the 3, 4, 5, 10 hours it would have taken me to do that transaction, guess how long it really took me? 25 years since I got my license in 1996. And no, to the hell to the no with a capital N and 17 exclamation points, am I not throwing you a percentage of my commission? Not now, not ever. I will clean toilets for a living before I give anyone my commission ever, and you should strongly consider the same. He does not have to get licensed. He does not have to sit here trying to figure out how to build his business. He does not have to take CE. He does not have to pay dues. He does not have to pay fees. He does not have liability hanging over his head. You do, you do, you do, and you do, and you have value, and you had better know it so that when someone says to you, throw me back a percentage of the commission, you can remember sales is service, sales is problem solving, and you are valuable and you don't need to do that. And here's the thing. Remember, every time you say yes to something, you're also saying no to everything else. It might have only taken me an hour to show that house, but guess what else could have happened in that hour? I could have worked on the book that I'm writing. I could have sold an online course. I could have sold a different house to somebody. I could have taken a nap or seen my kid for an hour before he leaves for college. So know your value. The next, be a problem solver. And this goes in line, they're all connected. One of my favorite examples is you walk into somebody's house to list their house and you start talking to them and you ask them why they want to sell their house, because you're human and you care, right? Because first you're human, and they say, well, the roof is leaking and I can't fix it, so I have to sell it. And then you look at them and you say, well, wait, do you want to sell your house, or are you selling it because you think you have to? And they're like, well, the roof is leaking and I can't afford to fix it, and so the house is just going to fall apart. So the only way I can do it is if I sell it and then I go rent an apartment. And you're like, no, you're not. You can get a home equity loan, or you could get a fill loan, or you could do this, or you could do that, or there are grants, or there's this. And they're like, what? And then you help this person, you solve a problem, and you help them fix the roof in their house so they can stay in their home. And guess what you didn't get? You didn't get a listing. but you solved a problem and you were led by being human. And what do you think is going to happen? First of all, there's good money and there's bad money. And I don't want to sell somebody's house who doesn't want to sell and could stay if I told them what I know. And the second thing is, they're probably going to refer you. And I can't guarantee it. And I don't want you to be led by the carrot on the stick saying, if I do the right thing, they're going to refer me, but they're going to refer you. Because how do you think they're going to tell people when their friends are like, I thought you were selling the house and how come it's not raining inside the living room anymore? And they're like, oh, because Dina came to my house and she told me and I was going to sell it and I thought I had to, but blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my God, who is she? Give me her number. Zillow doesn't do that. Next one, we network with co-op agents and service providers. We have a network. We all know each other and we're coming out of this whole quarantine COVID thing, right? Coming out of it slowly, but hopefully surely. And we know as we all take baby steps back into the real world, even on Zooms, even on phone calls, but in the real world, when you sit down and you talk to another person, don't amazing things happen? Don't you notice that like you can go on social media and you can post something and you get all the likes, all the shares, all the blah, 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 blah. Like me, like me, like me, like me, all over the internet. But none of that means anything than one conversation you have with a person. And then you're like, oh my God, yeah, I'm going to read that book, or I'm going to try that, or yeah, I want that recipe, right? It's that human connection. And so we have that with our service providers. We have that with the other agents that we know. And when I teach the redlining and implicit bias, the mandatory CE, which I'm so glad that we all have to take that this year, I talk about implicit bias, and we all know what implicit bias is. It's judging people subconsciously based on certain characteristics. And it could be discriminatory things. It could be anything. It could be color, creed, national origin, sex, marital, all the things. And there are ways that we figure out how to recognize that and overcome that. But here's what I want you to think about, is I want you to think about implicit bias with other agents. Think about the agents in town, no names, we're not talking names, but think silently to yourself about other agents that you do business with. And you have feelings about them. Some you think are really great, some you think are awful, and some are everywhere in between. And I will say one name because it's a really good thing. If anyone knows Bill Grubb is the most meticulous listing agent I've ever met in my 25 years in this industry. His listings are meticulous, his paperwork is meticulous, his contracts are meticulous, his showing instructions, everything you could eat off the floor, no matter who the seller is. So when I do a deal with Bill Grubb, I have implicit bias that I know it's going to be smooth and easy because I know who Bill is, I know who he represents, I know how he conducts his business. We all have implicit bias. And so your relationship with other agents is more important than your relationship with your clients, because we do deals together over and over and over again. And for those of you who are in Philly, Philly is like 10,000 people on a whole lot of mirrors. It's this really small incestuous town. We all know that, right? So we have this network of service providers and cooperating agents that matter when we do deals. It's very, very different than cold calling. It's very, very different than buying leads off of Zillow, because this is one of our worth, something that is our value. So how can you increase the value of your network? Well, you can build a list of service providers, and I haven't done this, but this is one thing that I've seen at Triple Play. A guy named Jared James, sounds like a porn star, but he's not. He's a real estate coach. He might be both, but I know him as a real estate coach. That name, I love that name. He talks about creating a Facebook group for your past clients, right? You create this VIP Facebook group for past clients, and then you put in there your list of all these amazing service providers, and not just house related ones, but florists, party planners, best restaurants, best wine shops, whatever you want to put in there, dog groomers, everything. And now you're building this community and building this list, and people find value in that. So people transact with you and they get to be part of this club or part of this Facebook group. And then the other thing that you can do is, as you're creating this list of network providers, you can promote them on social. And this is another strategy that I saw somebody else talk about a couple of years ago at Triple Play. See me promoting Triple Play? You should all go to Triple Play. So somebody else promoted on Triple Play that what they did was they loved doing Facebook Lives. And they would go in and they would review different local businesses in their town. And their tagline was, home, life happens outside the home. And so they would go and they would interview and they would talk to people and just walk through stores and talk to people. And what they did was they were promoting these local businesses. They were providing value to the community. So the community saw them as an expert in the market, and the business that they were promoting also promoted them on social media. So it was a cross promotion and they were exposing each other to their audiences. It's a really great way to build up relationships and give value to your clients. And the next one is to leave reviews. And you can do this on Yelp, on Google, on Facebook pages. And here's the thing about leaving reviews, especially when you do it on social media. I call it leaving breadcrumbs. And pay attention to this one because it's a biggie. When you go leave a review or a comment on someone else's post, what's the first thing they're going to do after they read it? They're going to click on your profile. And then they're going to see what you have posted. So you can strategically leave breadcrumbs by posting something on social media that you want people to see, and then going and commenting or reviewing other people's social media pages or commenting on their posts, knowing that as soon as you leave that comment, they're going to click on your profile and they're going to see the breadcrumbs that you left. Okay, that's worth the price of admission, isn't it? Right then and there. Okay. Now, we've talked about all these different things that we have that we bring to the table that you are good at. And we also know there's a lot of things that Zillow sucks at. And what they suck at is pretty much all the things that I pointed out that you could be good at. So how do you find your value proposition? It's as simple as this. Grab a journal, grab a piece of paper, and start writing down some of the things that you're really good at. And draw a little Venn diagram and find in the middle the intersection between what you're good at and what Zillow sucks at. And that is the beginning of your value proposition. How you're going to disseminate that into the world and how you're going to help bring that business to you, that is a whole other situation. And I'm more than happy to help you with that at a further date, but we don't have all that time to go into it now. But just finding what your value is really enough to get you started. And then with the last few minutes before Q&A, I just want to go over a few ways that you can actually reach people, because now that you have this value proposition, how are you going to find people if you're not buying leads and you're not cold calling? One of the things I want you to remember is that everyone is a potential client, because everyone needs a place to live. We are not selling little bolts that they use on military planes where there's like 5 people in the whole world who are your client. Everyone is a potential client, and you will notice that there are conversations about real estate going on all around you. And in fact, Zillow and HGTV did us a freaking favor because they made real estate sexy, right? We saw that SNL house porn skit on Zillow, right? We see HGTV and we see all those shows. They made it really commonplace and really sexy, and people love to talk about real estate. They love it. And it's when you enter the room and you start talking about real estate, or you hear someone and you jump in, everyone's on top of you and they want information from you. So let's talk about how to find your people. One of the things I said earlier was, I don't want to be burnt out. I don't want to have to go generate lead, generate lead, and then socialize. I want to socialize doing whatever it is that I do and generate my leads that way. I want to work to live. I don't want to live to work. And I want to create an organic real estate business, one that dances with my life. So how do I do that? Well, there are a couple of things, actually more than a couple of things. And these are just some of the things that you can do to start connecting with people. And then when you connect with people, your value proposition is what's going to seal the deal. When I say touch 5 people, I do not mean in the creepy way. I wrote a blog post on it. I mean simply calling people, 5 people a day, just calling them to say hello and then converting the contact into a client. And I did a presentation on that for GPAR. It's on the YouTube channel if you want to watch that. The next one is add 3 names to your sphere. So you should have your sphere of influence. You should have it written down somewhere. It might be in a CRM, it might be, but I also urge you to write it down because there's something about writing it that's going to trigger it in your mind. And when you write it down and you can look at it frequently, it's going to help you think of people to call. You're just going to call them. You're not asking them to buy or sell a house. Also try and hand out 3 cards every day. Try and get the conversation turned to real estate somehow so that you can hand out cards. But remember, when you hand out cards, it's really better to also get the person's card because that way you control the conversation. Next is preview of property. I already talked about that. It does wonders. And I talk about all the great things that it does in my blog post. The other thing is call a past client just to say hi. I often do that if I'm on MLS and I see a property near the one that I sold them or near the one that they sold, I'll email to them or I'll call them. Or if I'm showing a property in their neighborhood, one of the things that I'll often do is if I'm previewing a property in their neighborhood, I'll call them and I'll be like, hey, I'm going to see your neighbor's house. You want to come see it? They never say no unless they're busy because everyone wants to see it. The next one, tweet. I said tweet. I don't even tweet. Tweet or Facebook or Instagram, a good experience you had recently with a local business, and link their page in your post. That goes similar to promoting local businesses. Change up your routine today. Do one thing differently. Turn a corner, rearrange your desk, clean out a drawer, closet. It's good for your brain. Any kind of decluttering or changing will just change everything. This is my absolute #1 go-to. And for the ladies, shave. Shaving is a giant, big decluttering one. If you want to unblock stuff, go shave something that needs shaving, and it does wonders. With permission, post an office listing to social media to generate buyer leads. You can even go do a Facebook Live. I did that when we were on shutdown and Jersey was not shut down, and I have my Jersey license and I have a house down the shore. I went down the shore for several months when we were completely shut down. And I called the agents down there and I was like, yo, your house is vacant. Can I do a Facebook Live? And I walked around and drummed up some business in Ocean City and sold the house while I was on shutdown so I didn't starve. Go do a Facebook Live. Schedule yourself to do an open house. Volunteer somewhere that matters to you. This is a big one. People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. Where are they going to trust you more than when you're in the trenches with them, fixing something that hurts your heart? So you're going to be fixing something, volunteering, and the person standing next to you shares values with you because you're both volunteering for the same organization. You're killing 100 birds with one stone, and volunteering is one of the absolute best ways to be a human and to build your business. Next, send a referral to someone just for the hell of it and don't ask for anything in return. And it doesn't have to be a real estate referral. It can be any kind of referral. Give before you get. Read a business or motivation book. Love them. One of the best ways I found, rather than sharing lists of books, is the app called Goodreads. And if you're a reader, go on Goodreads and then you can friend other people and you can see what they're reading and share ideas. And it gives you, you can keep lists of what you want to read. It'll suggest to you. It's just a really, it's the best way. I used to keep lists of the books I read. This is, I found the best way. So it's called Goodreads. The next one is called FSBO, or for Run by Owner, to see if you can help them. And I really mean that. I really mean that. Don't say, I want the listing. You call them up. I did this with my neighbor across the street. They own a commercial building with an apartment on top, and they just opened a coffee shop below, and they have one of those Home Depot for rent signs. And it's been there for months. And I saw him the other day and I was like, dude, have you rented it out yet? No. Well, guess what? Do you need some help? Let me give you some feedback. I texted that number 2 months ago and no one's called me back. No one's texted me back. Someone's not answering the phone. You have to get back to people. And he was like, thank you. Now, I may or may not get that listing. And the reality is he can probably rent it out himself if he returns the text. But I gave something. And what did it do to me? I walked around, I was like, I got my stuff together and I have value and it made me feel better and I helped him. And he may or may not come back to me, he may or may not, but it changed my energy when I was walking down the street and it put something good out into the world. I think this is the last one. We have to put final on there from now on. Reach out to your local neighborhood group and attend a function or go to a volunteer opportunity. If you're in Philly, you should be a member of your local RCO, your registered community organization. You should go to the meetings. You should know what's going on. That's how you're going to meet people. Attend a zoning hearing. I don't know if they're in person yet, so I guess you could go on Zoom, but it's so much fun to go in person when you're not in the hot seat and just sit back and watch and absorb it all. You'll learn a whole lot. Oh, and another thing is you can stalk MSB. Has anyone ever done that? I'm such a nerd for spectator sport. I've gone down to LNI, just sat there for an hour, just listened, looked around, put your earphones in so no one thinks that you're spying on them, and you just listen and you absorb what's going on. It's a whole different vibe than when you're down there in your own world accomplishing an errand. And then another thing is study someone successful and model at least one behavior from them. And here's something I didn't put, but I think it's even more important, is study someone and model one behavior not to do from what you see them do. Because we learn more from knowing what not to do than we do from learning what to do. I think that's, oh no, there's more. Add 5 friends to your Facebook. This one's good. Talk to a stranger, look them in the eye and ask a question about them. You can ask them anything. I don't know if Reetha's here, but one of my new agents, she was talking yesterday on our tour about how she was at a party and she started talking to some woman. She liked her hair. And the woman was like telling her where she got her braids and blah, blah, blah. It's a council person, someone on city council. And I'm like, look what happens when she liked her braids. Is she here, Reetha? And when she liked her braids and they started talking and now the woman texted her a link from Amazon that she has her cell phone number. Someone on city council, not in Philly, somewhere else. Drop a trail of crumbs on social media. I already told you how to do that. Write a blog post. Blogging is a great way, especially for introverts. If you don't want to be on camera, not everyone has to be on Facebook Live. Write a blog post and do a little bit of research on SEO, search engine optimization. And you'll get people, you write about something specific, a topic about your neighborhood or your niche or what your value is, and you're going to attract people to you. And record a YouTube video. And a shameless plug for my dear friend Karen Carr, Karincarr. If you are interested in YouTube, she is the person to train you. She has free trainings and paid trainings. So you do you. She has a Facebook group called YouTube for Real Estate Agents. And she is phenomenal. So I strongly recommend that you check her out. And remember, YouTube is a search engine. It is owned by Google. And there are people who get their entire business from doing YouTube videos. And that's it. So here's how to find me. I'm going to stick around if there are any questions. I see stuff in the chat. I don't know if it's for me, but here's how to find me. That's my website, jbria. Oh no, it's jbria.net. We typed that wrong. I don't know who did that, but it's jbria.net, where you can just find me on social media. We'll fix that slide. And then that's my school on Instagram, or just me, Janis Benstock on Instagram is how to find me. Okay, let me stop the share. I didn't have a conclusion on there, but the conclusion is this. The conclusion is that you do not have to fight Zillow. Zillow is not putting you out of business. Zillow, think of them as doing you a favor because they're skimming all the people off the top that you don't want to work with, because those are the people that just don't care. They're transactional. They don't care about the relationship. And one other thing, and I know Matt's here is like, shut up, Janis, I got one more thing. When you work with the right people, you run less of a risk of getting sued. When you work with the wrong people, if I would have worked with the guy who wanted the 1%, you know what else went through my mind? One thing goes wrong, what's he gonna do? He's gonna sue me because he doesn't value our relationship. I'm just someone to open up a door for him and to hand him money and someone with a license. And I don't want to work with people like that. Ta-da, that's it. Anything in the chat for me, Matt? Oh, no. Okay. Don't put down your Twinkie if you don't want to. That's awesome. All right, cool. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All
I
right,
would
cool.
also, and anyone, this is my first time presenting this topic in this way. So if you have feedback for me and you're too shy to give it now, feel free to email me, because even if it's like, this was terrible, I would love constructive feedback so I can make better for the next time.
There we go. Looking for some honest feedback. With that, Janis, let's give a round of applause for Janis. Thank you very much, Janis. Great workshop here today. Thanks for sharing some of your wisdom and experience from over 25 years in the business. It's always helpful and always learning new stuff. Because look, Instagram wasn't around when Janis got started, right? So it's constantly evolving, constantly changing, and it's important to not be stagnant. So with that, join us tomorrow for the Bright MLS workshop. And remember Friday, Trent Pettis with his workshop. So thank you to everybody for tuning in today. Have a great day. Get outside, suck in that really nice, beautiful weather. Looks like we're turning the corner from winter into spring. All right, take care, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, Janis.
Bye.